We're including workplace safeguards for our members. And finally, we've got a federal assistance page, which we're adding more and more information to daily, and we'll have more after Congress hopefully passes phase 3 later today.
Back with another PHTA update. Dave, what do you got going today? Who are you talking to?
Well, today, we've been talking to Sabina all week. So today, really excited. We got Jen Hatfield in, and Jen is government relations for PHTA. And so she's actually the one that's kind of in the thick of it. And she's the one lobbying and really studying all of this stuff and has been really on top of everything. And so welcome in today and give us a little bit more of a description what you do at PHTA.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I lead the Government Affairs Department for PHTA, and I've been working for the industry in some way or form for about 14 years. So it's been a long time, but never seen anything like this. And we have been in the trenches working with our members and industry and our alliance members, trying to provide all the information we can for our members. And but typically what I do is I'm leading the federal, state, and local legislation and regulatory efforts for the association. We monitor everything that could affect the industry in all its segments. But as you would imagine, the last couple of weeks, it's all been about monitoring and getting involved with the COVID crisis, And so we've been providing lots of resources and tools for our members and delving into state orders and local orders. And I think Sabina shared with you on her last podcast all the wonderful tools we have on our website for the industry.
Yeah, and you guys actually even created a standalone little microsite. What is that page? Just to deal with this, with the coronavirus piece.
Yes, it's the PHTA coronavirus resource page. You can go to our website. On that, what you'll have is you're going to have first a box there for where we have all our state and local orders and information on how to lobby your state. And we're updating that daily. You'll see another update today with some additional orders and how that affects our industry. We've even included a state exclusion chart to kind of help say, okay, I'm maintenance or I'm construction. What does that mean to me? We've also got a page for our customer communications where we're providing the information on what you need to provide to your customer, why you're essential as a pool maintenance person or retail, etc. We're including workplace safeguards for our members. And finally, we've got a federal assistance page, which we're adding more and more information to daily, and we'll have more after Congress hopefully passes phase 3 later today.
Okay, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. I want to touch on that a little bit more towards the end. But we've been giving updates to our membership, and we've been really kind of staying on top of it. But some of the regions of the country that don't have big associations, I'm here in California. We're lucky in California, Florida, and NESPA. So we've got those. We kind of understand what's going on in those regions. But some of the other regions, can you touch on what's going on in some of the other regions around the country that maybe don't have big associations and they look only to PHTA for guidance? Are there some hot spots or some victories we're seeing? What are you seeing out there?
Sure. Well, I will just first say overall, we're finding most states are allowing for pools, spas, and hot tubs to be maintained, which is critical because the proper sanitation and circulation that we would need or will have further issues. We're also seeing most parts of the country allowing retail and distribution. But recently we found in Pennsylvania, for example, which, we work with NESPA on that state, share that state. And there we had correspondence from the governor's office that clarified that, yes, pool maintenance is allowed, is essential, as we know we're using that term. But retail stores have to close. Well, we are now working to lobby lawmakers in the governor's office to say, wait a minute, that doesn't work, because first off, if we have pool maintenance as essential, we all know they have to go to retail stores and the like to get the chemicals and the products. So we're working to try to clarify that issue in Pennsylvania. We also are seeing a lot of the states allow for construction But then in Texas, I will tell you, we're working with the Texas Pool and Spa Coalition. They were formerly APEC, and PHTA is part of that coalition. We've got a couple lobbyists down there that do a great job. And Rick Hagan from Pool Corp is their president. And in Texas, it's all mostly been local county orders. And most of that has been good for the industry, allowing for all the aspects: construction, maintenance, retail store, distribution, etc. But what we found just yesterday was the city of Austin and the city of San Antonio is saying, we'll allow you to continue work in progress, active construction sites, but they have said no more for new construction. So that just came out yesterday. But overall, Texas, we've done a great job. That's one we're kind of in the middle of to see if they can change that. But it's a little difficult, a little harder to sell that, and we understand in these times. Another area I just will mention and we've been working with is our Midwest chapter. Overall, they've been seeing, I think, most things okay. We've had a few areas, though, where we're seeing some, like in Wisconsin, we're being told there may be a change to allow, right now, maintenance is allowed. It's considered essential. So we're trying to get ahead of that and work to provide a letter to the governor's office to say, don't change that. It is essential. We need to continue to maintain the pools. And in Michigan, we had where they're following the cybersecurity guidance, which is what we provided at PHTA, saying, hey, here's all the reasons we fall under the guidance. We've been trying to use that as a nationwide tool, and most states are utilizing that guidance, and so did Michigan. But we had a couple localities interpret it differently, and went to somebody's pool store and said, you got to close down. So we're trying to fix that as well. But so I'm just saying the point is, overall, I think we're doing well. When we find these little spots of the country, we try to get in there and try to address it. Sometimes it's a misinterpretation issue.
Perfect. Rick, you haven't been on these updates yet. So can you share a little bit? I mean, one of the real big marketplaces is the Arizona market. And so as you're in the Arizona market building, can you give us an update really from Arizona? What's going on there? What are you seeing? And are you seeing any adverse effects to construction and on the maintenance side as well?
So far, we haven't seen, I mean, again, everybody always refers to like Texas as the Wild West. The true Wild West is Arizona, honestly. We do have a lot of controls and stuff when it comes to licensing, but they have been relatively mute in impacting the construction or the service or the retail for pools. And so far we've done really well to be able to keep things and the program moving. We haven't had any specific legislation acted against or towards our industry on the construction side. They're allowing construction to happen. We continue to be concerned on how we're going to manage getting crews to and through jobs or from jobs if we're doing construction crews versus service, but we're doing our best to try to keep whenever we can, like our organization would have our crews come to our yard and then take our work vehicles to their site with 4 to 6 guys in a truck. We're making adjustments as well, like anybody else, trying to modify that. So when they're working on a job site for the day, we drive to the job site separately so that we're not confined in a vehicle, minimize how many guys are coming into the office or warehouse facilities. But so far, the state has been pretty lax as far as not making any impact directly towards us. We will have ideally we're going to have on Saturday, I'm going to have Cody Pools in, who works out of the Austin area, and also maybe Michael Moore out of Louisiana to have another podcast with them and see how they're working through. Because I know talking to Mike Church the other day, I know he is helping and working with other pool builders to help lobby to keep things open because they are starting to get some restrictions in operations. But I think so far Arizona has been minimally impacted. I mean, it's obviously so far from what we can see one of the best industries to be in based on this situation, other than obviously we're going to see some slowage and starts of new construction and pools probably in the coming months from all the setback on the market. But allowing us to continue working and keeping our employees employed has worked out great. I've got about half my office staff working from home. Most of my designers we've moved them out of the office and let them work from their own home from now, just to kind of minimize all the contact. But for the most part, pretty nil in Arizona.
Awesome. Thank you. And so, Jen, can you, if this is the first podcast or episode that anybody is tuning into, can you just kind of give us an overview? We've skirted around it, but what is the PHTA position on service and on construction, and what is the argument that why these should be considered essential services?
Sure. Well, the PHTA position is that for service, the maintenance of pools, both public and residential, and I want to hit on that public side here in a little bit more, it's essential to be maintained because we're going to have other health and safety issues if you don't continue to maintain them. Obviously, like cryptosporidium. Also, if we have pools that have pretty much been abandoned, we're going to see mosquito-borne, diseases come out, which is only going to cause further problems for communities and also further tax a medical community that is already, to the brink. So it's really, that's from the service maintaining side of things. From the construction side, we feel like we have a very strong argument on work in progress, active construction sites for a lot of the same reasons, safety, health. We also are supportive of allowing new construction, but we recognize that, some states are allowing that, some are not. Just like I mentioned, Austin just came out yesterday with not allowing, and it's a little bit more harder, needle to thread on the arguments there. Obviously, there's the economic. So we'll provide any tools we can to our members on that aspect too. But that's probably the tougher argument.
Yeah, and I think I've gotten some pushback just in online communities about how we shouldn't be even doing construction. The service side is pretty cut and dry. That really makes sense, and that's a very easy one to explain to people. And once the light bulb turns on that, that one seems a good one. But the argument that I'm making to people on the construction side is that you have so many school kids are home. And the reality is that a construction site is dangerous. And so with so many kids home and, potentially wandering around the neighborhood, we're supposed to be shelter in place, but not necessarily. To have an open hole with, say, rebar sticking up, that is really potentially problematic and very dangerous. So the progress jobs that are going, we really feel like that should be an essential service because we need to continue the process to make these construction sites much more safe.
Agreed. PHTA agrees. Definitely.
Well, on the service side, like in my market, guys, we have a lot of our clients are now warming their pools up earlier than normal because they're stuck at home. So now they have kids swimming, a month earlier than they normally would, and a lot more swimming most likely because we don't have kids in school. It's no longer weekends and afternoons. So the service side of it's got to stay in place because most of those pools, weren't even ready to be used necessarily because we don't winterize here, but we also don't worry about the maintenance side as much when they're not getting swam in. So maintenance becomes huge when we start. Now these pools are going to come alive and get a lot more use than normal, especially this time of year.
And we've also heard, Jen, that you've had on the Northeast, it's actually been warmer there this year. So these people that are staying at home on their staycations, they're trying to get their pools opened up. I've got your website, the PHTA coronaupdate.com up here. A lot of the documents that you need to have in your trucks are available on this website. Isn't that correct? So this is a resource that that the members can use to have documents in the truck when they're servicing to get across the point. You've got customer communications here, federal assistance, workplace safeguards. So is this a resource that people should be using?
Yes, definitely. We encourage members and non-members, the industry as a whole, to please use the resource. We think it'll be very helpful. And I also want to mention, in addition to those documents that provide to the customer, hey, this is why we should still come in your backyard and be servicing your pools. And to your point about the warmer months, we've had a very warm winter all across the country. And now that people are stuck, in their homes, they're going to be utilizing those backyard pools. And in addition to continue to keep them up and running, we've also got to make sure we're messaging the safety aspect, watching your children. May is National Water Safety Month, but this is all starting everybody being in their backyard pools a lot earlier. And so we're going to, I know a lot of the industry is already providing those messages, but we're going to be continuing to message that aspect too here in the weeks to come.
So let's, while we're on this maintenance side of things, one of the trouble spots that seems to be coming up is the whole J1 visa thing. And can you just give a real short synopsis of what that is for people not familiar with it? Big industrial pools and swim facilities are familiar with that, but what is the real challenge that we see upcoming with that? And it is something that we really need to start thinking about as an industry.
Sure, no problem. So the J1 Summer Work Travel Program is a program from the Department of State under their exchange programs, and we hear about H-2B and all these other different programs. But this one specifically is utilized in our industry mostly by pool management companies across the country, where they are looking to hire summer lifeguards. It's continued to be used more and more over the years because, quite frankly, the American high schooler, college kid doesn't want to be a lifeguard anymore. They want to go and do the internships to get into college or to get a great job or a sports camp. And by the way, I was a lifeguard, so I don't know how they wouldn't want to do that. I loved it, but that's what we're seeing. So what these companies have had to do over the years is utilize this cultural exchange program. So they're bringing in people from different countries, training them to be lifeguards, and then they're lifeguarding at your municipal pool, or like in the mid-Atlantic area, there's very strict lifeguard requirements where we've got community pools, even your HOA pool, condo pools, they have to have lifeguards. And so it's a very, very popular program used widely in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, because it's used not just for our industry, but for summer camps, restaurants on the beach, etc. And so that program has been in essence shut down for this summer with the travel restrictions in place because of the virus. They're unable to utilize it. Most of the time, it's usually April when they're bringing those people in and training them, getting them ready to open the pools in May. And so we have a coalition of these companies that utilize this program that has actually been meeting for years, because we work on making sure the program continues and any issues that the Department of State has. And that coalition, we met just yesterday by phone, and we're discussing how, first off, the need to still, those members not only provide lifeguards, they're providing pool service and maintenance and already opening these pools, as you mentioned. And some people might say, wait a minute, you're opening public pools, but it's different. And that's one thing you're gonna see that we provide later today, is an understanding of, although state orders are saying we're closing public aquatic facilities, that means closing to patrons. We're trying to recognize that doesn't mean you don't continue to maintain it and get it ready. Because first off, if you don't, it'll probably be a more costly fix later. And when we get through this crisis, then we can open them faster. But then our next issue, circling back to the J1, is the fact that now will we have lifeguards available to actually open these pools? And I know the coalition right now is looking for this summer, we hope we'll see other people who unfortunately are out of work because of this crisis. We can maybe get them in these positions, but we still have the issue of training them, because obviously we can't do lifeguard courses right now with the social distancing requirements.
Sure. So that's really something that that everybody wants to keep an eye on. My son's a lifeguard. He's been a lifeguard. He's actually pretty bummed right now because the facility that he works for is shut down, and he was not senior enough to be there during this time. He's just been laid off. But it sounds like a great opportunity for kids that actually want to be out there and maybe won't have other opportunities as people. As the economy loosens back up, you may or may not see a glut of hiring. So I'd also like to transition a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what's going on actually in DC. What is going on with all of these stimulus bills? Phase 1, 2, and 3. I think I don't know the exact way it's being terminology for it, but we're still waiting. Here it is Friday. We're still waiting for that final shooter drop, if you will. But 1 and 2 are in place, and they bring a lot of complexity for small businesses. I think a lot of small businesses haven't really had to pay attention to some of these family medical leave things before because they've been more for larger corporations. Here in California, we have to, even as a small company. But I think the backbone of most of the pool industry is really small businesses. And the reality is that if you're not paying attention to some of this stuff, you really could get yourself in trouble. So can you kind of just give a real quick overview of what has happened right now and why every small business needs to at least understand this and look into it and decide how deeply this could potentially impact you, because there are legal ramifications if you don't.
Yes, no problem. Happy to do so. Well, first off, I want to mention our website again, where we have a federal assistance part of the coronavirus resources. So I want to ensure everybody goes there for the latest information, and we'll be updating that soon. But as you mentioned, there are 3 phases right now. Phase 1, that one was really all about providing what the healthcare industry needed. Okay, that was the focus of phase 1. Phase 2 was the one that passed on March 18th, and that one is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And that one would address FMLA and sick leave provisions. And I will tell you, we just put on our website Wednesday, if people want to go there, links to the U.S. Department of Labor's guidance. This is preliminary guidance on the expanded provisions of the Family and Medical Leave Act, as well as paid sick leave provisions. And they provide fact sheets for the employer, for the employee, and questions and answers. So that would be phase 2, and that information is on our website. Now, the third phase, is known as the CARES Act, is what everybody who's listening to the news is hoping to see Congress pass today. The Senate passed it late last night. This morning, where we were hearing that there may be an issue with one congressman holding it up. They wanted to do a unanimous consent vote, gets it out faster, quicker. Not everybody has to come back, because they're concerned about social distancing as well in Congress. But what we are hoping to see is by the end of the day, hopefully that bill will pass out and the president will sign it immediately. Just some high level aspects of that bill that's large package that's really more focused on small business is there's $350 billion in loan authority to the Small Business Administration. And included within that is $562 million to help small businesses by ensuring they have the resources to provide economic injury disaster loans. And this is going to help businesses keep their doors open, basically, and pay their employees. Then there's also, you've got 4 months of more unemployment insurance. That increased, instead of 3 months, you go to 4. There's $10 billion for emergency grants. For small business operating cost. It adds a retention tax credit for employers to encourage businesses to keep workers on the payroll during this crisis. And there's $17 billion in SBA to cover 6 months of payments for small businesses with existing SBA loans, so you don't have to pay those loans in right now. And there will also be, of course, everybody's been hearing about it on the news, the direct impact. Those checks, from the government for people making up to $99,000 and $198,000 through married couples. But all of that, we're going to provide more information on in a detailed webinar next week, along with just more information on the website as well once the bill passes. But if I could, I'd like to just remind people a couple things they should do in the meantime, if you have a few more minutes. For sure, absolutely. Okay, because one of the things we're telling our members is this is a very complex package that's coming out, right? And we're all, including myself, having to read through and understand the nuances. So right now we're saying, look, keep detailed records of the unique economic impact of your business, such as workforce, sick leave, contracting issues, supply chain distributions. Keep all of those records so you have data points when you're applying for those SBA loans. The other thing we're suggesting is to expedite any SBA loans you apply. Once you have submitted the application, let's work to also contact your congressional offices in your districts where you're doing business to help expedite it. So those are a couple points we're already telling our members ahead of time. But we will be providing additional information next week on this. And we, like I said, I know we all as Americans hope to see the Congress act and President pass that bill today.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple more things. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but we're encouraging everybody to be printing some of the documents, your state documents and your federal documents, and hand them to your employees so that in the event that a vehicle gets pulled over, they have the documents saying, here's the job site we're going to, here's the federal or the state orders that are saying that we are allowed to be out here working. So just do that for your employees themselves. And then I'm not sure if it's a California thing or if it's a federal thing, but the FMLA, all of those documents need to be posted. And so, we've been actually giving the documents to all of our guys. But you really, again, I can't say that enough that a lot of the provisions that have only been for big businesses or for businesses with 500 employees or more, this doesn't apply to that. This applies to everybody, whether you've got one employee or 10,000 employees. There are a lot of documents that you need to be signing. And so back to your point of keeping good records, you also need to be going through all of the proper protocols and making sure that you have done, you're following the letter of the law, because there are some really good things that are available out there, but you would hate to get disqualified on a technicality.
Agreed. Yes, very much so. Well, I do have a feel-good moment to provide you guys too about the industry if you want. I don't know if you've had a...
perfect.
We need a big hug, Jen. Give us a big hug.
I know. I think we do. It's been a hard couple of weeks for the industry and for all of us. And one of the things we were just told today was we're seeing some hospitals reach out to industry, stores and distribution and manufacturing, asking for swim goggles and swim masks, because right now they don't have enough masks. And so I think that's a great way for our industry to help the bigger picture here. So I just thought that was a great thing to hear this morning when I got up.
That's fabulous. She is Jen Hatfield. She is from PHTA Government Relations. How do we get a hold of you if we need to get a hold of you? Can you give us your information?
Sure, no problem. It's J Hatfield, and that's HATFIELD @phta.org. You can email me. You can contact me by phone at 941-345-3263. And I look forward to hearing from you. And we're here to help the industry. And thanks for having me.
And just give us one more plug for the webinar that you've got coming up. And is that going to be available for everybody? What day is that? And how can we find that next week?
Sure. Well, we are looking to hold it next Friday, a week from today. But we will have more details coming out in our newsletter, on our website, either later today, for sure Monday. And if you have Sabina or myself on next week, we'll be plugging it some more.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Right from the top of PHTA, we appreciate it. You guys make it a safe day, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Ask the Masters is dedicated to educating, mentoring, and designing a better workplace for the swimming pool industry and their families. Please take a moment to share, like, and review our content with all of those that would be interested.